Good morning, class. Today I will deal with my topic, that is foreign body aspiration. Foreign body aspiration worldwide is a health problem which often results in life threatening complications, and more than two-thirds of foreign body aspiration occur among children younger than 3 years of age. So, we'll see introduction. In introduction, foreign body aspiration into the airway is one of the dramatic pediatric emergency. Incoordination of swallowing leads to aspiration. So here we will see that foreign body aspiration into the airways or into the respiratory tract is one of the dramatic pediatric emergency, and incoordination of swallowing often leads to the aspiration of these foreign bodies. Depending on the size, shape, and nature, the aspirated foreign body lodges in the larynx, trachea, or bronchial system, and it is completely treatable and to much extent preventable in some situations. And if there will be a delay in recognition and removal, that can lead to the chronic complications. And organic materials such as nuts, seeds, bones are most commonly aspirated material in foreign body aspiration. Then in definition, here we will see in definition, foreign body aspiration is the introduction of solid matter into the airway at the level of glottal opening, larynx, trachea, or bronchi. So in foreign body aspiration, what happened? It is the introduction of solid matter into the airway at the level of glottal opening, larynx, trachea, or bronchi. Mainly, foreign body aspiration occur when a foreign body enters the airway and causes choking. And foreign body aspiration is one of the life-threatening emergency condition. An aspirated solid or semi-solid object may lodge in the larynx, trachea, or bronchi. Then in epidemiology, we will see that mainly it affects age group 3 years or older, 50% children are suffering, and age group 10 years or older, 95% children are suffering. And the peak incidence age of foreign body aspiration is from 6 months to 3 years, and it is more prone to male, means male are more likely to suffer foreign body aspiration as compared to females. Then we will see anatomy airway, that is the anatomy of the respiratory tract. So the airway or respiratory tract consists of two things, that is upper airway and lower airway. In upper airway include nose and paranasal sinuses, oral cavity, pharynx, and larynx. And lower airway include trachea, left and right bronchi, secondary lobar bronchi, segmental tertiary bronchi, terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole, and alveolar duct and sac. So first is upper airway. In airway, first is nose and paranasal sinuses. So paranasal sinuses are cavities in the interior of the maxilla and the frontal sphenoid and ethmoid bone. Paranasal sinuses are cavities in the interior of the maxilla and the frontal sphenoid and ethmoid bone. Then is second is oral cavity. Oral cavity refers to the mouth. It include lips, lining inside the cheeks and lips, front two-thirds of tongue, upper and lower gums, floor of the mouth, and bony roof of the mouth. And it plays a key role in first step of digestion. Then third is pharynx. Pharynx, it's 5 cm long tube behind the nasal and oral cavity, and it is subdivided into nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. Then fourth is larynx. Larynx, we all know that it is commonly called as voice box. It is an organ in the top of the neck, and it involves mainly in breathing, producing sound, and protecting trachea against food aspiration. So here it involved three things. It involved in three things. First in breathing, second in producing sound, and third in protecting trachea against food aspiration. Then is the lower airway. In lower airway, first trachea. Trachea is commonly known as windpipe. It is a tube 4 inches long and it divides into two smaller tubes called bronchi, that is left and right bronchi. Right main bronchus is shorter, wider and more vertical in direction than the left. Then is secondary lobar bronchi. It is the conducting airways that are lined by cartilage rings. Secondary lobar bronchi is the conducting airways that are lined by cartilage rings. And secondary tertiary bronchi, which is also known as segmental bronchi. And terminal bronchiole is most distal segment of the conducting zone. Each of terminal bronchiole divides to form respiratory bronchioles, which contain small number of alveoli. Alveolar duct and sacs. It is a tiny duct that connects respiratory bronchioles to the alveolar sac, each of which contain a collection of alveoli. So, in lower airway, trachea, first is trachea, which is commonly known as windpipe. It is a tube 4 inches long and it is divided into two small tubes called left and right bronchi, where right main bronchus is shorter, wider and more vertical in direction than the left. Third is secondary lobar bronchi. It is a conducting airway that are lined by cartilage rings. Fourth is secondary tertiary bronchi, which is also known as segmental bronchi. Fifth is terminal bronchiole, which is most distal segment of conducting zone, and each of these terminal bronchiole divides to form respiratory bronchioles, which contain small number of alveoli. And seventh is alveolar duct and sac. Alveolar duct and sac are tiny duct that connects respiratory bronchioles to alveolar sac, each of which contain a collection of alveoli. So this is all about anatomy of respiratory tract or airway. Then next is etiology, etiological conditions. Children comprise the most common age group for foreign body aspiration because of the following aspects. So here first is they tend to put objects in the mouth more frequently. So because of curiosity, children tend to put objects more frequently on their mouth. Then second is they lack molars. So children they lack molars for proper grinding of food. So this can also lead to foreign body aspiration, or some food particle may lodge in uh, respiratory tract. They third is they tend to be running or playing at a time of aspiration. So while eating the food, most of the children tend to play while eating. So in that condition also, food particles, they may aspirate those food particles, and that can also lead to foreign body aspiration. Then fourth is they lack coordination of swallowing and glottis closure. So here in some situations children lack coordination of swallowing and glottis closure. So here the question is, what is glottis closure? Glottis is a space between two vocal folds. Glottis is a space between two vocal folds. So when the vocal folds adduct, glottis closes, and when the vocal fold abducts, glottis open. So here when the vocal fold adducts, glottis closes, and when the vocal folds abducts, glottis open. It folds backward over the glottis during a swallow so that food and water do not go into the lungs. So that is known as glottis closure. It folds backward over the glottis during swallow so that food and water do not go into the lungs. So they lack coordination of swallowing and glottis closure. The next is children often examine even non-food substance within their mouth. At some situations, what happen, uh, children may examine some non-food substance like any type of buttons or pins or any type of seeds, some non-food substance in their mouth. And next is, even immobile infants, even infants who are not able to crawl, may aspirate these foreign bodies as they find things or the ability to pick up objects and put them in their mouth. So this is all about the etiological conditions. Then next is, what are the usual foreign bodies? So what are the usual foreign bodies? Here there are two things, that is organic and inorganic. Uh, inorganic, we will see foods. In foods, peanuts are there, peanuts, popcorn, seeds, hot dogs, any type of vegetable matter. And in non-food, bones. So if children come in contact with these organic foods, and they aspirate those foods, so that can lead to foreign body aspiration. Then is inorganic means that non-food substance, like toy, any type of toy parts or crayons or pen tops, tags, pins, nails, screws, bullets and casings, buttons. So these are all the inorganic substance. And if children is are in reach of those inorganic substance, so uh, they will put those objects on their mouth, and that will lead to foreign body aspiration. Then next is location of impacted foreign bodies. So here are the few location where mainly foreign body is impacted. First is larynx, 1 to 5%. In 1 to 5% cases, foreign body will lodge in larynx. Then in trachea, it is 5 to 15 cases, 5 to 15% cases are there. Then in left main bronchus, 30 to 35% cases are there. In right main bronchus, 30 to 40% cases are there. In lower bronchus, left lower bronchus, 5 to 15% cases are there. And in right lower bronchus, 5 to 15% cases are there. So these are the locations of impacted foreign bodies with their percentages. Next we will go to um, clinical manifestation. Here in clinical manifestation, first is, often the child presents after a sudden episode of coughing or choking while eating with subsequent wheezing or stridor. So what happen when the child aspirate foreign body? So they lodges in the respiratory tract, in trachea or bronchi or larynx, anywhere. So what happened, sudden episode of coughing or choking will be there. So child may not be able to breathe properly. There will be a cough or choking. Child will having subsequent wheezing or stridor also while eating, with subsequent wheezing and stridor. So what is wheezing? Wheezing is a whistling noise in the chest during breathing. So during breathing, a whistling noise will be there in the chest. Or stridor is a harsh vibrating noise when breathing caused by obstruction of windpipe or larynx. So here, when windpipe or larynx will be obstructed, a harsh vibrating noise will be produced while breathing. Then second, laryngeal foreign body. In laryngeal foreign body, when foreign body lodges in larynx, what happen? Hoarseness will be there. Hoarseness of the voice will be there, and there will be croupy cough. Croupy cough means, it is also known as barking cough. It is obstruct breathing, means child will not able to breathe properly. That is known as croupy cough. Then aphonia will be there. Aphonia means inability to produce voice or sound, or they will not able to speak properly. That is known as aphonia. And hemoptysis means coughing up of blood When they will cough, blood will come out. Then dyspnea will be there, difficult or labored breathing with wheezing and cyanosis. Cyanosis means everybody know that is loose discoloration of skin due to inadequate oxygenation of the blood. So in laryngeal foreign body, these are symptoms we will see. Then tracheal foreign body. In tracheal foreign body, asthmatic wheeze will be there. Then bronchial foreign body. In bronchial foreign body, initially cough, blood stained sputum. So in bronchial foreign body, cough will be there with blood stained sputum. Then asymptomatic signs of asphyxia and wheezing. If the condition is asymptomatic, means if there is no symptoms of any if there is no symptoms of any choking or no symptoms of any foreign body aspiration, then we can see the sign of asphyxia, that is deficient supply of oxygen in the body. Child will not able to breathe properly, and also wheezing will be present. Then next is a fever may be present. Fever may be present if the child has been febrile. It is important to consider the possibility that the object may be contaminated or chemical irritating. So if a child is suffering from foreign body aspiration, so there may be fever also. And if child is having fever or is febrile, then it is most important to consider the possibility that the object which the child has been aspirated may be contaminated or may be having any type of chemical irritants. Then seventh is the more difficult cases are those in which aspiration is not witnessed or is unrecognized and therefore is unsuspected. So the most difficult case in these cases, what happened, the aspiration is not witnessed and is unrecognized, what kind of foreign body is the child is aspirated, and therefore it is unsuspected. That is most dangerous. And the child may present with persistent or recurrent cough. So the child is having persistent or recurrent cough will be there. And child will be having wheezing, or the child may have the symptoms of pneumonia also, and lung abscess, and also hemoptysis. And child will not able to breathe properly in such cases, and at sometimes child may become unconscious also, and in some conditions there may be a death of a child also. So these are all the clinical manifestations of foreign body aspiration. Then we will go to investigation. In investigation, first and foremost thing in diagnostic evaluation we will see is history taking and physical examination. In history taking, we will ask certain questions to the parents of the child. So some of the questions that we have to ask to the parents in history taking is: did you witness the child ingesting a foreign body? Did the child report to you that he or she has ingested a foreign body? Do you know what the foreign body is? Size, shape, or identity? Do you know when the child ingested the foreign body? The time or the day? Have you found the foreign body in the stool already? Has the child previously swallowed any object before? Then, does the child have any other medical illness or have had any previous surgery due to foreign body aspiration? Does the child have fever, abdominal pain, or vomiting? If yes, where is the pain? What color and how much vomit? Any blood in the vomit? And the last question is the child having difficulty breathing or showing any signs of airway compromise? If yes, we need to retrieve the objects promptly. So these are the some of the questions which will ask to the parents of the child in history taking. In physical findings or in physical examination, it includes stridor, wheezing, or diminished breath sound. Means we have to check the symptoms, that is if child is having stridor or wheezing is there, or diminished breath sound is there, so that we have to check in physical examination. Then is the plain chest x-ray, that is known as CXR. So 80% of the laryngeal foreign body and 15 to 28% of the bronchial foreign body can have a normal plain chest x-ray. Nonetheless, plain X-ray in inspiration and expiration are very useful. Obstructive emphysema, segmental or lobar collapse and pneumonia are useful diagnostic findings. In this, in plain chest X-ray CXR is used to evaluate the lungs and chest wall and may be used to help diagnose the shortness of breath and persistent cough. And chest X-ray is fast and easy, particularly useful in emergency diagnosis and treatment. Imaging with X-ray involve exposing a part of a body to a small dose of ionizing radiation to produce pictures of inside the body. So in plain X-ray, imaging with X-ray involve exposing a part of a body to a small dose of ionizing radiation to produce pictures of inside of body. So here you can see the picture of a plain chest X-ray. Here a screw is there in the a screw is there, foreign body, that is aspirated in the child's lungs. In plain chest X-ray it is visible. Then is fluoroscopy. Fluoroscopy, being a dynamic method of evaluation, is more sensitive than plain X-ray. So fluoroscopy is more sensitive than plain X-ray, and it is most useful when radiolucent foreign body is suspected and plain X-ray is inconclusive. Inconclusive means not leading to any decision or result. So it is useful when radiolucent foreign body is suspected and plain X-ray is inconclusive means it is not leading to any decision or any type of result. In the above situation, fluoroscopy would show phasic mediastinal shift. So here fluoroscopy is showing the phasic mediastinal shift. Mediastinal shift means deviation of mediastinal structures toward one side of chest cavity. Mediastinal shift, mainly mediastinal shift occur when severe injury to the chest causes the entrapment of air in the pleural space. As volume of air increases on affected side, lung collapse and the organ and tissue of mediastinum are crowded to the opposite side of the chest. That is known as mediastinal shift. I will tell one more time. Mediastinal shift occur when severe injury to the chest causes the entrapment of air in the pleural space. As volume of air increases on affected side, lung collapse and the organs and tissue of mediastinum are crowded to the opposite side of chest, known as mediastinal shift. And mainly in fluoroscopy, it is a type of medical imaging in which a continuous X-ray beam is passed through the body part being examined, and the beam is transmitted on a TV-like monitor so that body parts and its motion can be seen in the detail. That is known as fluoroscopy. Then next is the management. In management, signs of upper airway obstruction including aphonia or apnea need to be urgently managed. So here, sign of upper airway obstruction including aphonia or apnea, if child is having breathing difficulty, so these all things need to be urgently managed. Then in infant, 4 back blows with head held low followed by 4 chest compression. So here in infant we have to give 4 back blows with head held low followed by 4 chest compression. So here you can see 4 back blows we will give followed by 4 chest compression alternating. Here you can see in the picture 4 back blows followed by 4 chest compression. Then visualize the pharynx with jaw lift. We have to visualize the pharynx by lifting the jaw, and if foreign body is seen, we have to extract that foreign bodies, but we have to avoid the blind finger sweep. Blind finger sweep is okay, but we have to avoid blind finger sweep is okay, but we have to avoid the blind finger sweep. Blind finger sweep means some people insert the index finger into the mouth along with the baby's cheek till tongue base. They use it as a hook to roll out the foreign bodies. But this finger sweep is appropriate when you see that foreign body. So at that time you can insert your index finger and you can use it as a hook to roll out the foreign bodies. But at the at that time, if you are not able to see that foreign body, at that time you have to avoid finger sweep. That is known as avoiding blind finger sweep. If above measures fail, give rescue breathing and then repeat the above procedure. If these above measures fail, then we have to give rescue breathing to the infant and then we will repeat the procedure again. 4 back blows with head held low, followed by 4 chest compression. Here you can see head held low, 4 back blows will be there with 4 chest compression. Alternative we have to do in infants. Then second is children above 1 year of age. So the children who are above 1 year of age, we will give them Heimlich maneuver. Heimlich maneuver is 6 to 10 abdominal thrust. Visualize pharynx. If foreign body is seen, we have to extract this. So 6 to 10 abdominal thrust. So here you can see in the picture, place one fist just above the child's navel. Here you can see in the photo, placing the one fist just above the child's navel with the thumb side facing the abdomen, and do not thrust hard enough to lift the child off his feet. So we have to not thrust hard enough to lift the child off his feet. We have to just place one fist above the child's navel with the thumb side facing the abdomen. That is known as Heimlich maneuver. And then we have to visualize the pharynx, and if foreign body is seen, we have to extract this. If this condition is failed, then we have to again give rescue breathing and then repeat the above procedure. However, these measures should be initiated in a child who is able to speak or cry or is breathing. If the child is breathing, or if the child is able to speak, if the child is not having any type of aphonia or dyspnea, then we can give these measures to the child. So here it is Heimlich maneuver, you can see in the picture. Then if above measures fail, so if these above measure will fail, then what we will do? If above measure fail, we have to do urgent cricothyrotomy, tracheostomy and endotracheal intubation with smaller size tube. First is the cricothyrotomy. Here you can see in the picture, there is a cricoid cartilage. There you can see the lining. So there we will do cricothyrotomy. Cricothyrotomy, what it is an incision made through the skin and cricothyroid membrane to establish a patent airway because of airway obstruction by a foreign body. So if child is not able to breathe properly, so at that time we have to make an incision in the skin and cricothyroid membrane. Here you can see in the picture cricothyroid membrane to establish patent airway because of airway obstruction by a foreign body. Then is tracheostomy. Tracheostomy, here in tracheostomy it involves creating an opening in the neck in order to place a tube into the person's windpipe. The tube is inserted through a cut in the neck below the vocal cords. Here you can see tracheal tube is there. So it involves creating an opening in the neck in order to place a tube in a person's windpipe. The tube is inserted through a cut in the neck below the vocal cord. This allows removal of foreign body to secure the airway and to facilitate the foreign body removal. that is known as tracheostomy. Then is endotracheal intubation. Endotracheal intubation with smaller tube size. We have to do smaller tube size means 3.5 mm for infant or to up to 1 year of age. 3.5 mm of ET tube we should use. So endotracheal intubation is a medical procedure in which a tube is placed into the windpipe, that is trachea, through the mouth or nose. It is through the mouth or nose. A device called laryngoscope is inserted to be able to view the vocal cords and the upper part of windpipe. Endotracheal intubation is mostly done to keep the airway open, to support the breathing and to remove the blockages from the airway. That is known as endotracheal intubation. Then is the bronchoscopy. Bronchoscopy is, once stabilized, the child is kept nil orally. If the child is now stabilized, and the child have to keep nil orally, and oxygen should be administered to the child in case if child is having a severe respiratory distress. Dehydration, dyselectrolytemia and acid base disturbance should be corrected before the bronchoscopy. So if child is having any type of dehydration or any acid base balance or dyselectrolytemia means it is an electrolyte disorder, an imbalance of certain ionized salt, that is bicarbonate, calcium chloride and magnesium in blood. So these should be corrected before the bronchoscopy, and rigid bronchoscopy are the best. Firstly, bronchoscopy is a procedure in which a thin tube called a bronchoscope is passed through your nose or mouth down to the throat and into the lungs. However, if large object is struck into the airway, a rigid bronchoscope may be needed, and a rigid bronchoscope are the best because the rigid bronchoscope is successful in about 95% of the cases. Rigid bronchoscope is a procedure used to gain access to the patient airway and allow passage of large airway instrument and camera to detect the foreign body, and it remove the foreign body with multiple forceps. So here rigid bronchoscopy allows three things. First is visualization, second is ventilation, and third is the removal with multiple forceps, that is known as rigid bronchoscopy. Then next we will see is if chronic bronchial foreign body is there. So if the chronic bronchial foreign body will be there, then it may require thoracotomy or lobectomy. Thoracotomy is a surgical procedure in which a surgeon makes an incision or cut in a chest wall between the ribs, usually to operate on the lungs. Here you can see in the picture, a surgeon will make incision or cut in a chest wall between the ribs, usually to operate on the lungs, and it requires in only 2% of the cases. Incision made on one side of back below the shoulder blade. This is where surgeon will place a chest tube to remove the foreign body. And second is lobectomy. Lobectomy, we all know that lobectomy is a surgical removal where a portion of lung called lobe that is affected is surgically removed, but it is done in very rare cases. Then is complication. So complication of retained foreign body means if foreign body is still retained in the lungs, so what all complications we can see. First is the hemoptysis. Hemoptysis is a small amount of blood mixed with sputum. So due to chronic infections in lung and the shearing force of cough may lead to the hemoptysis. And then is bronchiectasis. Bronchiectasis, if foreign body is retained, it will damage the lung airway, making it hard to clear the mucus. So that will lead to the bronchiectasis. And then the bronchial stenosis. If foreign body is retained, it will narrow the bronchus, and if bronchus will be narrow, it will restrict the amount of air passing in and out of the lungs. That will lead to the bronchial stenosis. Then respiratory distress. respiratory distress or acute recurrent respiratory distress or failure. So if foreign body will lodges in the chest wall area, baby will not able to breathe properly, and that respiratory distress or respiratory failure will occur. And ultimately, if baby is not able to breathe properly, and if baby will be having severe respiratory system to severe respiratory distress, so that will lead to the death of the baby. So these are the some complications of foreign body, of retained foreign bodies. Then the last is the foreign body aspiration teaching and prevention. So here some of the teaching and prevention are there, that is no small hard candies, hot dogs, raisins or popcorn or nuts until age 3 to 4 years. So we have to not give any type of hard candies or popcorn or peanuts until the age 3 to 4 years. And we have to not give any types of latex balloons or cut food into small pieces uh, while we are giving food to the baby. We have to cut the food into small pieces so that baby can easily grind that food. And no running and jumping or talking with food in mouth. So if baby is eating, so we have to avoid the playing of the baby or talking while eating food, or any type of running or jumping while eating food should be avoided, so that will reduce the food aspiration. Then we have to inspect the toys for any type of small parts. So if baby will reach to that small parts of the toys, they will put that small parts of the toys into their mouth, and that can also lead to foreign body. So we have to avoid that situation. And then we have to keep the coins, earrings, marbles or buttons or pins or screws out of reach of the children. So these are some of the teaching and preventions of foreign body aspiration. Here completes my topic, foreign body aspiration. If you have any doubt regarding this topic, you can ask me. Thank you for your cooperativeness. Thank you for listening to this topic.